Hi, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome if you're currently here in the live chat. Today we've got a bit of a bulk video to get through. This is one of those situations where it's nice to tie it all together so it's not all loose and separate, right? And once we've got past that stage, we can get into the slightly more heavier, focused, concentrated videos of a particular area. And speaking of areas, we do continue that theme of a map analysis today. We actually have a couple of coordinates to dodgy places as described by Tara. So it'll be interesting to check that out, see what it's all about, see if we need to compare before and after with the imagery, what we've got on a regular basis, Google Earth, then comparing it to the latest satellite imagery of 2022. No harm in doing that, right? I do feel, as a heads up, I'll say it now, okay? I don't know if Spirit is here. The username, Spirit112 or something. If you are, good. If not, people in the chat right now, pass it on to Spirit if they join later, is that there might be some slight crossovers with the odd image of a particular location linked to a particular individual, maybe like Don Haley, but we'll just briefly, edge around that. So once for definite or so with maybe these coordinates, it can transition into a future video, as said, when we focus more heavy on that stuff. But it's just about checking these map areas, which we may have not seen before, because although I have done a video to do with Lucin in the past, almost marking every area, still to this day, there are some spots I just forgot to mark because it is very difficult, When you're on the maps, you got to zoom in really close, you got to scroll along, cover a fair bit of distance, even just on the screen, trying to look for little objects that show up, containers, sheds, objects which may appear something else which are not. It's just very deceiving at times, looking for ponds, areas. And you can check those videos out if you want to, of the other locations. The main reason behind all this and how it links to Dylan Rounds is looking for a potential spot where Dylan could be at. Whether he's just dumped inside of somewhere, some kind of structure, building, or he's buried in the ground or buried underneath some kind of object, right? No harm. Even if like how you got the grain shed property and there was a hole in there because of, I guess, collecting evidence at the time, you never know. There could be a chance that there might be another shed out there or another barn in which when you go inside, because of the ground just being dirt, it could have been dug up and Dylan could have been placed within and covered over. You never know. So that's why we got to check out for some of this stuff. And also what we can do is check out the comment section of the last video, see if there's any questions, any key information, discussion, talking points we can go over. That's what I'll do so. Find Dylan Round's Facebook page, still quiet. I mean, there's people still posting, but not as frequent. It's kind of outdated, right, by a couple of days. So I don't know what's going on there, because normally you had people coming on in with questions after questions, and you had a few other posts where Candice Cooley responded, but maybe to an extent people have finally got the message that they feel that the case is going in the right direction, so they don't need to ask as many questions. I guess so. In this process right now, I said looking for Dylan Rounds, such as on the maps, and also tying up loose ends along the way, and any events which may have occurred at any point in time, post Dylan's disappearance, just before or further back, right? Even events and actions which happened further back could somehow tie in with Dylan Rounds. And you might wonder, how's that even possible? Well, just look at Brenner. This is the perfect example what you should always think back to, okay? If there's ever an argument or a disagreement with people and you're told that, oh, that event with that person, maybe with Dylan, has got nothing to do with Dylan's disappearance, just think back to Brenner, who back in 2021 wintertime at Justin's shop, with Brenner, Don Haley being there, Dylan being there for a certain period of time until he moved on or left elsewhere, the building. And the person working for Justin, Dylan Brown's dad, overheard through that CCTV footage, the cameras and the audio, picking up Brenner's jealousy and some form of hatred towards Dylan, as well as Bibbins, who has been close to Brenner in the past, also overheard Brenner talking about how he wanted to kill Dylan, and that was in the past. And then even the other occasion where back in 2020, that far back, where Brenner threatened Justin, Dylan Brown's father, wanting to shoot him, and all the previous criminal history in the past as well. And because we've done that analysis in recent time, make sure to check it out, looking into the mind of Brenner, that long-standing jealousy, some form of hatred, annoyance, frustration. Pair that with a trigger, such as on the day, the 28th, of possibly breaking the horse gate nearby by Dylan. And that's what caused Brenner to snap, right? He may have snapped anyway if something just broke, but because of that long-standing history, building and building like a grudge, it was already in place, right? So that's what I mean about these events, these characters in the case. At some point down the line, something might have happened, right? You never know. And it could have carried on through, right? I just still find it interesting though how all these names that have popped up, and this actually occurs both ways, both right in the case, the people involved or supposedly involved questioned, and even the community online, such as on YouTube, how everyone seems to know one another or connects in some way, has some kind of connection. I'll just give you an example straight away. You know, you got Brenner, you got Don Hately linked together, then you got Kurt Wadsworth all linked together like a triangular effect. Then you got Aviles, then you got Chase Venstra linked together. But Kurt Wadsworth, Aviles, and Chase Venstra, it's like a hate relationship in that sense, that Kurt despises Aviles and Venstra, right? But they all seem to know one another. You get what I'm saying? There'll be a few others as well, even like with, to an extent, Brenner, Don Hately, Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds, Dylan Rounds, even though they're not all family literally, like Brenner being with the Rounds or Cooley family, they've been in proximity and have known each other for a certain length of time. So, and they all somewhat questioned, put aside family, all somewhat questioned in the case down the line within this, whether they still are now or just at some point in the past. Maybe it's only Ivor Zadovsky that hasn't really been linked to too many people in terms of knowing them, you know. As for the outer part on YouTube, you've got Pancakes at one point and you got Doug. They're working together. Then they're not. Now they are. You had Jim Terry, you had Pancakes, you had Shack Lady, all working alongside one another for a very short period, and then that just completely broke and just dispelled everything. Then you've got some person called Candice Howard, who I guess doesn't like Jim Terry, but then suddenly associates with Pancakes, which is interesting. If this Candice Howard is in contact maybe with the family, Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds, you associate with them, yet you're associating with Pancakes, in which Candice Cooley probably doesn't approve of. These weird cross connections. I know at time what you've got to acknowledge is, as a viewer, you might see these different YouTube channels, creators, and even if they're not creators, just users online who link up with one another, and you feel, oh, I wasn't expecting that to happen, you know, considering that person is talking about the case in that way, yet they're associating with this person that does the opposite. Or you think, how could that person that works with Candice Cooley or Justin then be siding with Lance Kelly? You know, these weird conflicting relationships and groups, alignments, it doesn't quite make sense. But there's a possibility that maybe some people are only doing it just to get on with and get along with some people to gather information and intel, and then once they've got it, walk away, almost pretending, is it called befriending someone? right? I mean, if you've got these like little teenage mutant ninja turtle spies with the little headbands on, the little turtle shells, the shurikens and little stabby daggers going out there, right, through the sewers, passing all the rats, okay, maybe the rats jump onto the teenage mutant ninja turtles on the little shoulders, squeak away, and then go on to these different YouTube channels, become members, join up. It seems like, oh, they're showing support, but they're only joining and they're having to sacrifice money in order to be able to gather the inside intel, the VIP access. That's how deep it gets. That's what people are willing to do, right? So that's probably why you might see supposed alignments and alliances being formed. It's only temporary, okay? And just one final thing, just to roughly touch upon. I saw one comment recently saying, drama set up, pre-planned drama, right? Almost like to create a talking point. Now, I can't remember who said it. I think they were regarding pancakes, like this 1 week ban was like a pre-planned drama to get things going, to stir the pot, to get the interest, the intrigue, the focus on it all. And then it works out down the line, some kind of publicity stunt. I mean, I don't know if that really is the case, but what I do know is with other people elsewhere in the past, it's most definitely happened, okay? Just a very quick example. Maybe people won't know of this, but there is a YouTube group from the UK called Sidemen, kind of degenerative, right? I can't really be bothered with them, typical UK, you know, but called Sidemen, group of guys. But at one point in the past, one of the members broke apart. Then there was drama exposing diss tracks, degenerative trend at the time. Let's rap about each other. Let's insult one another. It got lots of views. It got lots of attention. And eventually down the line, it was revealed as it was all fake, pre-planned drama to benefit them and to give each other a boost in terms of views and most likely money, right? So it could happen here within the Dylan Rounds case. You could be saying, what? How does the Dylan Rounds case equal this? Well, really, the Dylan Rounds case for some people is a spawn point. Well, like in a video game, you spawn, you get put into this environment, this community. The channel is set up out of nowhere and a few names do emerge, right? Then you might get some older channels, right, such as Jim Terry. That's been around for some time, but maybe not uploaded any videos to their channel aside from their alt accounts, right? They just appear like that. So, you know, just like these little observations, you know. Also, put that aside before we go on any further. If you haven't already, make sure to check my previous video out. I'll provide a link down below in the pinned comment section. Make sure to watch it. And also, shout out to some of the individuals last night. It was like, blessings have returned. And it must be a blessing because finally the whip is right next to me. Blessing, blessing, blessing. There we go. The blessings returned out of nowhere, right? Shout out to Cleo for her presence and super chat, as well as shout out to Indiana, you know, raising money for new pants. Well done, Indiana. Okay, hopefully someday they'll do some Indiana Jones pants. That could be quite interesting, right? We've got a little lasso on the side of it. Well, I hope it don't get misinterpreted. That could get a little bit dodgy. Also, shout out to Moon Mom. I think it's Mum, Moon Mum, but I keep saying Moon Mom because, as you know, I'm transitioning into an all-American with the accent. Can't seem to get away from it. But yeah, shout out to Moon Mum 666. Okay, the 666 gang. Yeah, counteracting the tree, and any of us in between. So yeah, for her super chat, but also Moon Mum for also gifting membership to some people in the chat. I think it was like 3 to 4 people. I think it was Quintessential, Stony, and someone else. If anyone is confused to what gifted membership is, okay, membership, first of all, is where you see that join button on the channel, where you become a member of this channel, Warlike Ref, like how you may have seen with other channels, and then you get the access to those special badges next to the usernames, which do change and advance in quality the longer you become a member for. The longest member, you get that really nice skull. I don't know why I'm saying nice because I created it, okay, but it looks quite good as well. And then also the custom emojis as well, you know, that back, the back of Lucin, the mighty whip, never seen anywhere else. You can use that, okay? So that's kind of like the idea behind the channel membership, as well as the odd, I guess, like post on the community tab if there's like any updates or bits and bobs just to point out as well, such as new badges in the future or new emojis. That's basically what it is. And when it's gifted membership, that's basically where a person, I guess, can pay for a membership for a certain amount of time and give it to someone else, basically. So then someone else who's been selected at choice then becomes that member, and they themselves don't have to pay because someone else did, right? So that's what Moon Mum did for Stony, Quintessential, and then someone else. So that was good of her, okay? I mean, it's kind of like, what does it remind me of? On some game launcher called Steam, where if you used to buy a game, you could set it as a gift or like some kind of wish list gift. You'd pay for it, but then it gets put into somebody else's library, so then they can install it, kind of like a present in a way. It's good that there's all these different options here and there, and I guess the one thing to acknowledge, right, you know, you put aside all of that dodginess, the odd bits of corruption here and there, things being exposed, or this going wrong or that going wrong, whether it being within the Dylan Rounds community, like with all the drama. At the end of the day, when it's come to like a super chat or a super thanks or the members thing, this or that, it's not gone wrong, right? You know, like there's not really been any errors with YouTube. You know, it's been fairly smooth, so that's good, at least, just to acknowledge that. But yeah, let's just put all that aside, focus in on Dylan Rounds right now. Welcome if you have just joined out of nowhere. We're going to look at the comments of the last video first regarding Dylan Rounds, then probably going to transition onto the maps with the coordinates, and then to finish off, we'll check another comment out by Weezer talking about some interesting points regarding Chase Venstre 2, okay? And maybe we can do a poll at some point as well for a potential future video idea, okay? Let's transition on over to YouTube and see the comments first. So here we are, we adjust it, boom, like that, start from the bottom and claw our way up. It's like clawing up the kitty catty ladder. Kitty catty? That was a bit of a tongue twister for me and my tongue, don't know why. We got Cleo with the shocked face. Cleo, don't worry, you know, if you need to use that whip emoji, you can. Like, this is the thing, Cleo, okay? And it can apply to the kitty cats as well. I think maybe at some point, okay, I'll have to double check as well with those new members joining. If I do manage to unlock a new slot for a custom emoji, I think it needs to be cat related, right? We do have a paw print emoji. I think it's still there, the pink paw, but that is more of a custom one in the name of Cuppy, who's a member on the channel who did here and there support the channel quite a lot, so that's why I created one for her. But we need an actual cat one, where it be a cat face or a cat claw. Okay, if there's enough members to unlock the next slot, I'll definitely do that, because I think it's quite fitting, right, for the kitty cats. You know, it's yet another piece of equipment to use and to make the most of, aside from the whip and all of that. You know, I think it's all good. We've got Tom Evans here saying, even if it turns out that Brenner did commit a crime against Dylan Rounds, there are a couple of people that have acted as if they are guilty of something. we and Box Elder should not overlook them. What was the response? Got a point as well. True. You know, the people that have claimed innocence, and yet the way they've acted at times, it's been the complete opposite. They've not done themselves any favours. To an extent, Kurt Wadsworth, you know, if Kurt has information of this and that, has he reported it to the police? Because it seems like one of the only few things he reported to the police and spread awareness on was that hostage situation, which he got info from a psychic, and it turned out to be BS. So is there a possibility that Kurt Wadsworth, although he may know things, hasn't said anything because he feels like he'll be wasting police time? Has he lost confidence in his ability, in what he knows, because of that psychic reading at the beginning? Do you think that's a possibility? Do you feel that the family won't listen to Kurt Wadsworth after him coming out with that comment about Dylan being held hostage in Montello? Because Candice Cooley did say in recent time that it was seen as a ruse. She said a ruse. That's what Kurt Wadsworth was doing. I myself touched upon the idea, was it a decoy tactic to enable somebody else to get on with stuff? I mean, if you think of it now, it might make more sense for you to actually go back to my previous video in the past. It's called Decoy Theory. If you type that in, it should pop up eventually, to do with the hostage situation, which turned out to be just a rumour. With Kurt Wadsworth being friends with Brenna, from the looks of it to an extent, with Brenna staying with Kurt Wadsworth just after Brenna's trailer burnt down in Montello for a certain length, and then Brenna moving on into Lucin. The odd person did look after Brenna. Bibbins helping Brenna about when Brenna was injured, and Kurt giving him some accommodation, temporary, right? Friendships building to an extent. Knowing about each other, growing like that. So, you think post Dylan's disappearance, if Kurt for some reason feels that Brenna could be responsible or knows that Brenna is responsible around that time, with the police presence and everything like that, maybe Kurt wanted to provide some opportunity, time, space for Brenna to breathe, for the focus there, the Grangeshed property, the police, family, to be dispersed and move down to Montello. So then it enables Brenna from there on then to move about, move stuff, hide things. You never know, right? I mean, it was the 31st of June when Kurt Wadsworth made the call and told the police family about the hostage situation. Then came 1st and 2nd of June with the items being returned back. You know, if the police and family were over there for at least 1 to 2 days, could that be a possibility? Though, what we do need to acknowledge, at least on the 2nd of June, Candice Cooley, was it the 2nd of June or was it the 1st of June? Might have been the 1st of June. One of the 2 days where Candice Cooley did say that she was on site near the Grangeshed property observing Brenna. So Brenna didn't go anywhere because she would have saw him. So he wasn't the one responsible for returning the gun and key fob, so it must have been someone else. But was that the day beforehand or two with the phone call made by Wadsworth, Kurt, about Dylan held hostage? Was, even though it's on separate days, was it like a method, an attempt to create a decoy? Does anyone agree with it still, or have your minds changed with time? Let me know your thoughts, okay? Do we need to do a poll? Yeah, we'll do a poll right now, whether it be new viewers or people from the past who may have changed their minds with time after hearing Kurt Wadsworth and his interviews over time. Has your opinion changed? Do you feel that Kurt Wadsworth attempted a decoy to get attention away from Brenna, so then Brenna had the opportunity, or someone close to him like Don, to be able to, I don't know, move stuff, hide things about, return items? Let me know your thoughts. Make sure to vote. Anything else here? But yeah, aside from Kurt Wadsworth, so it's not just all focused on him, list a name or names in the chat right now of people you feel are suspicious within the Dylan Rounds case. People you have observed, seen, heard, watched, who've acted out at times, but might have said something, done something a little bit odd, resisted, went against something, rejected something, whatever it may be. Kind of like with Kurt Wadsworth, which made you think, for an supposed innocent person, they're not really doing themselves any favours. List the names down below. At least in my mind, would there be anyone? Don Hately. Okay, you might be wondering how and why. Well, a few different actions. First of all, Don Hately lying at the beginning to the police about potential whereabouts of Dylan Rounds at, is it called Pilot Peak? Pilot Mountain? The tallest one, the snowy one, where police spent a couple of hours getting up there to find absolutely nothing, and the sheriff being infuriated by Don Hately and pinning him up against a wall and telling him off. And yet Don Hately passed in the polygraph test. So there's a disparity there. There's contrast, isn't there? 1 minute lying face to face with the police, next minute passing the polygraph test. So there's a little bit of inconsistencies there with Don. As well, Don always appearing around Brenner here and there for these different events. Spring cleaning around that. Going down to Wendover with Brenner supposedly, even though it's like a crime scene at the time of Dylan's disappearance as well. Don Hately also leaving the area, during Dylan's disappearance, abruptly, out of nowhere, mystery, kind of. Don't know where he's at. Those levels of actions. Is there anyone else aside from those that you feel have been dodgy as well? List down below, as I said, okay? Move on. We got Lee. I think we are overlooking Brenner's ability to get rid of Dylan. Don probably helped and knew of an easy spot to take Dylan. Don and Brenner were together looking for Dylan. Don has to be questioned more. Good point. Don needs to be questioned more, but it's trying to find him to begin with. I don't know if people are aware of where he's at, like the family. Just Candice Cooley now. Not really mentioned that name since. Well, no. The only time Candice Cooley did mention Don's name was in the last interview with No Thanks, where Candice and Doug hinted about the possibility that Don played a role to an extent, not in disposing Dylan or killing Dylan, but just simply trying to cover for Brenner, which is more than enough, right? Covering the tracks, helping a killer out there. Yeah. If that really was the case, then it's a weird conflict and contrast to when, at the time, roughly, when Ty Corbin came across Don Hately searching about and in tears because Dylan's gone missing. Wouldn't quite add up that. Being in tears, yet helping Brenner did what he did to Dylan and knowing about it. Don't quite make sense that. So either one's true, the other one's false, Well, it's probably quite obvious saying that because one is an opinion, Candice Cooley, Doug thinking Don's involved in some way, and then the other one is more based off a factual experience, witness firsthand, which is Ty Corbin going face to face with Don Hately. Yeah. Let me know your thoughts anyway about that. I think Lee was the one that said he's watched my Kenny Beach videos, I believe. Hopefully I'm not getting mixed up with someone else. Shout out to you, Lee. Anything else here? Overlooking Brenner's ability to get rid of Dylan. Like, this is the thing. With the gun and key fob being returned back by Brenner, Candice Cooley doesn't seem to think so. Must be someone else. But who? Don Hately? It's weird the items being returned back, but at least they were cleaned. And you might think, well, how's that a good thing? In the eyes of the person responsible for it, it's a good thing. It shows that the thinking and the somewhat smart. If it is Don Hately, he's left behind less traces than the likes of Brenner has, right? I don't know. Brenner supposedly dumping the phone in the pond. Was that a smart thing to do? To an extent, it was, to try and dispose of it. But as for the boots, the way they were put near the dirt mound. Very reckless, very careless, and especially leaving prints behind, which of Brenner. Brenner did that. He was a bit silly there. That's what I mean. The difference of how evidence was disposed of, hidden, removed, etc. It could link to different people with different personalities and concepts of how to deal with that stuff. Also, with the blood being on Brenner's shirt and Brenner not even bothering to burn the shirt to dispose of and just leaving it in his trailer, which is very silly and very reckless. That video recording, which may have been started by Brenner accidentally fumbling around with Dylan's phone, reckless once again, right? That type of stuff. So you could overlook Brenner in that way and think, God, he's made such a mess up of things that he's been clearly incriminated for all this evidence which proves he's responsible in some way or another. Yet, has Dylan been found yet? No. After all this time and resources eventually used, Dylan has not been found. So that's the only thing Brenner was good at doing, concealing, hiding Dylan, right? The method of hiding Dylan, has that been overlooked, underestimated? I'd say, at least in my opinion, we have looked holistically, and we've also gone in depth at times of possible spots, locations, routes, modes of transportation, with or without assistance, right? I mean, one thing that would, and it's probably not the case, I'll be honest, but it would have definitely set the record straight to an extent, would be when disposing of Dylan, if it was just Brenner himself, if Brenner was able to take out and deal with Dylan face to face when Dylan was alive and Brenner was successful there at manhandling Dylan, then most likely he would be somewhat able to do it post Dylan's death when disposing of Dylan. I know you got to take in mind the dead body weight. That does weigh more, right, when everything is just flopping about. You got to take that into mind. But, you know, although it's not been 100% confirmed, it does seem to lean more likely to a shooting, right? All Brenner has to do is hold a gun in front of him, press the trigger, whether it be from behind, cowardly, or face to face. The gun is mainly doing most of the work. All Brenner has to do is hold the gun up. So there's not a lot of physical resistance or fight. You know what I'm saying? Unless they did get into a bit of a scuffle to begin with. I don't know, because there's no cameras out there. You can obviously leave your thoughts down below. There might have been a particular method used, such as the gun, but was there any scuffles, face-to-face confrontation beforehand, before the inevitable, you know? The outcome. Just want to know. Because if Brenner had to rely on a gun to get the job done, right, then most likely Brenner may have relied on another individual to help get the job done in disposing of Dylan, right? Possibility that, if we take in mind desecration along that umbrella term, that he was buried, then reburied at a later point, another day, let's say. Brenner may have temporarily hidden, concealed Dylan, and then reached out to Don, possibly, about helping, assistance, and then the job was done more successfully at that point. That's the way I say it. You just got to look at the patterns of how Brenner dealt with things, dealt with Dylan, leading up all the way up to the concealment of Dylan, the desecration part. You know? Don probably helped and knew of an easy spot to take Dylan. Don and Brenner. I mean, it says Don and Brenner were together looking for Dylan. Were they though? This is an area where still to this day there are differing stories. Candice Cooley has said both Brenner and Don were not looking for Dylan rounds. Not at all. They simply weren't looking for Dylan. But then you got Ty Corbin saying Don was out there looking for Dylan, but no talk about Brenner, who I guess likely wasn't. Then you got general public viewers from time to time saying both Brenna and Don were looking for Dylan. But then you got some people saying Brenna and Don weren't looking at all. And then you got some people saying Kurt Wadsworth was out there for days upon days, constantly searching about and never stopping, as if he knew where Dylan was at and just kept on searching. It's so muddled, right? Can we come to a definitive conclusion to whether Don Haley was truly out there searching for Dylan alongside Brenna? Or was it only just one of the two searching for Dylan? I wouldn't be surprised if Brenna didn't search for Dylan because, from the looks of it and the evidence pointing towards Brenna being the murderer and being charged of it as well, why would you start searching for the person you killed? It doesn't make sense. I know you can blend in and pretend that you care so you appear less suspicious, but based off the patterns of people who have just simply appeared innocent and made themselves look suspicious, I don't think Brenna would be taken into mind of, what can I do to appear less suspicious? I don't think he would be even thinking or caring about that, right? So there's a few different talking points there. We'll even do a poll right now. I know it's very close together, but, a lot of polls equal a lot of dancing, okay? You know exactly what I mean. So the poll can be, do you think Don Haley, or should we be using the word think? Do you know? Do you believe? Let's do that. Do you believe that Don Haley and Brenna were searching for Dylan in the early days? Yes, no. So yes can mean both of them. No, none of them. And then the other two options can be just Don, just Brenna. Something like that maybe. Or maybe we exclude just Brenna because it does seem highly unlikely. Remember, I'm limited to voting slots. Maybe the fourth option can be someone else, like Kurt, possibly. Just get an idea of where people stand in the case, just to raise these talking points, because as I said, they faded away with time. We need to reignite them, just to see if there's an update or not. Anything else? Glenn, thumbs up. Just Jen. Okay, I was wrong. Embarrassed, jumped the gun. It's okay. I mean, regardless of what it was, just Jen did clear it up in the end. So I guess that's fine. What else do we have? And she came back and made it right. Yep. Channel is the best for info about Dylan. Rafi is a good BS detector. Oh, bullshit detector. I don't know why I misunderstood that at first. So shout out to Caroline. Why is it in an Irish accent? Caroline. Good morning, Caroline Middleton. I don't know why. Sometimes when I read out usernames, I put an accent to them, like automatically. Like Kaylee or American Honey. I can't say it really with a normal voice. It's got to be Kaylee, American Honey. Something like that. But then if it's Maria, I can't say Maria. I have to say Maria. Maria Mosagno. I don't know why. It's just like automatic these days. And Tara. Can't say Tara. Tara. Anyway. What's this? I don't know what was I thinking, just assume, but I've been disappointed. I should have kept it to myself. I mean, if you wanted to treat it more as an observation, like, just Jen hasn't really done anything wrong, but if she feels she has, she's corrected it in that sense. Like, all done in a matter of a couple of hours, just like that. A full cycle almost. Just Jen, if you want to word it like this, just Jen has done something a fair few humans have failed to do with time, right? In which of correcting, updating something, tying up a loose end. So it's all good. Caroline, we are all human. I don't know why I read it like that. Well, some of us are humans, others are rats, Just one of those things, can't do much about it. Okay. I mean, am I a human? I don't know. Maybe I'm an alien. Maybe I've descended from space. You never know. We've got Sun. Hello, Warlike Wrath. Uh-oh. Oh, no. 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 Oh, no. Look how long this is. Oh, my God. Okay. I think this could be a long video. Wanda. I'm sorry, Wanda. Wanda! Calm down, Wanda. I know you're in Uganda, but you just need to calm it down. I know you have big lips. You kiss all over that place. But please, do not suffocate me. I got this under control. Just give me a second, Wanda. Wanda, my boy. Anyway, we'll just read it anyway. Let's see what Sun has to say. Sorry, I edited it down prior to you addressing it, not wanting to broadcast the base names further. This is just to do with a previous comment, that's all. To do with pancakes, so it's okay. In response, your Kelly attacker, I suspect it is Lance and Kimber Kelly posing under an assumed username. When you are on target, you start getting the flack. I mean, yeah, to an extent, when you start, pointing out certain points. Actually, to be honest, it makes sense. Remember when we talked about how I was referring to the past about the Lance Kelly and Heavy D situation inside of that mine underground, and they kind of agreed to an extent that Kurt did do inappropriate stuff to certain younger people and Dylan Rounds, and it received a lot of resistance and tension all of a sudden and defensiveness. Well, when I reiterated that, when reiterating it once again in recent time, then it led to that account being not created, but that account just popping up out of nowhere. And, we've seen that pattern with time in the Dylan Rounds case and community with drama, alternative accounts, fake accounts, all kinds of stuff has happened, so it wouldn't be a surprise. The way I say it does seem likely it is a Kelly-related family member of some sort, whether it be the actual people, Lance and Kimber, doing it, or a family member, who knows. But, yeah, we'll just read on, see what's been said here. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Sun says, the only positive thing I have to say about Earthworm is I like the way they rescued the coyote pups. I don't agree with their living off a non-profit asking for money for a $14,000 cadaver dog, plus travel and living expenses 365 days a year since Lance chooses not to be employed. I respect Wanda Atkinson and others in the UK's generosity, giving them well over $20,000. But I feel in the end, they will awaken to realise they have been taken advantage of by this couple who are untrained and uneducated as a search and rescue team. But time will tell. Maybe I will be proven wrong. I do hope so. So you can't criticise Sun for how she's worded this. She's given her opinion, her ideas, and she does want to be proven wrong. She wants good to come out of it, despite all the suspicion around people. So that's fine. Sun also says, regarding the mother coyote's fate, Ty Corbin just uploaded a video showing thousands of sheep guarded by great Pyrenees guard dogs which eat coyotes near Dylan Round's property. The sheep go right over the grain shed and Dylan's property and have for over 150 years. Wow, quite some time. After Dylan's activities, there is no feed out there for them this year. I think Dylan disrupted things out there environmentally, since Dylan just liked to ride his tractor, ploughing, tearing up ground, and never restored or planted the ground. I've not really thought about that, to be honest, but interesting. That is not good. That land is extremely environmentally sensitive and cannot bear the impacts of sporadic farming ventures and sheep and cattle activities. It impacts both wildlife and other ranchers' success rate. Those sheepmen and cattlemen have been there since the 1800s and would not have been happy with the ploughing under of natural grazing habitat, which was growing and had adapted to the poor soil, which their sheep, cattle and wildlife winter-spring range depended on as they start lambing. Now, Dylan's recklessness, I'm not quite sure. Does this wording by Sun, could this possibly explain from the point of view of Brenner, when Brenner was having a go about Dylan, how he handled equipment, how he used it, reckless, not treating it with respect or something? I'm not sure, so there's a little possibility there. I did see a comment, can't remember where, it was definitely on my channel at least, someone saying that when it came to, who was it now? Nearby Farmers Ranch or something, where Dylan was asking them for tips on farming, but he seemed to lack confidence or he didn't know what to do, so he kept asking for help, advice. I don't know how true that is, but, you know, if it is what it is, with Dylan, you know, doing farming full on, mainly by himself, on his own land, what he purchased, his grandfather, for the first time. There's no harm in asking for a bit of advice or some help. It's kind of normal to do. But, you know, provides an insight to Dylan, possibly, compared to what the story's been told previous by some. Yeah, anyway, let's continue. Dylan was throwing things out of balance, too busy making money, working on other big ranches to focus on getting the job done on his grandfather's Larry's land again. That is why Don Haley quit. Dylan refused to get the water line fixed and pump fixed and his seed in the ground in time for a 2022-23 crop of triticale. The end of May is way too late to successfully plant out there, and everyone knows the water is too salty to produce a guaranteed crop. Don Haley, Ed Hirschberger, Kurt Wadsworth and Brenner knew that. So did the other big ranchers that Dylan was working for know that. Okay, interesting points here, what Sun has said. All Dylan was doing was leaving a big dead spot where at least sagebrush, greasewood and native grasses once grew, all of which sheep eat prior to Dylan's arrival out there. Regarding these sheep, they need land and water, both of which Dylan was taking. Dylan Rounds was making enemies, acquiring more and more land, stripping all the natural vegetation for both wild and domesticated animals, not replanting quick enough, which is irresponsible, stewardship of land. I'm curious about the death rate of animals due to starvation, due to human and farming impacts, as well as water resources being depleted as I analyse that valley. Wow, so it's going pretty deep here, okay? Although sort of some people out there, they might see this as being very negative towards Dylan. If it is what it is, it's just telling the truth. That's basing it on if it is really what it is, okay? I'm just simply reading this out, okay? But it maintains a little bit of balance. And I'm not saying this is 100% the case, but you think about it. In most tragedies, family, friends, whoever will speak about the victim in a positive light. Oh, they were greatly missed. They're greatly loved. Very good person. Very nice individual. Did nothing wrong. Never caused any trouble. Perfectly fine. Perfect individual. Taken too soon. And most of the time, that may well be true, right? But if there's any corruptness going on, if there was ever any bad actions displayed or destruction, recklessness shown, it seems to be a clean slate, all wiped off just because the person's no longer alive anymore. But maybe sometimes that should be brought to light as well. Does it apply here? I don't know. Maybe not. But let's just carry on reading regardless, just to understand what's being worded here. I'm curious about... Yeah, we've read that. When I saw those thousands of sheep, I had an aha moment. Something left, not investigated. The environmental impact of Dylan Rounds in Lucin, which creates another question. I'm starting to suspect Dylan's farm was a tax write-off as a failed venture.
We still do not know what happened to all the seed Dylan bought because he never planted it. In fact, his tractors were sabotaged, his seed spreader was on bare rims. How could he plant? I think it was last night I saw a comment by someone. Was it Quintessential or was it somebody else, or was it Sun? It feels like it was someone else that mentioned about the tractor being sabotaged. I think it might have been someone passing it on from what they heard of Kurt Wadsworth, what Kurt Wadsworth had to say, that Dylan's equipment was sabotaged or something. Just talking about it roughly because I can't literally remember it, but interesting. We still don't know what happened to all of the seed Dylan bought. Well, from what I heard of at least, that seed, I think, was taken away by Justin Rounds, maybe the grandfather. It wasn't left about because looking at photos of the grain shed, there's no seeds in the corner, there's none of that, there's no bags of it. There might be empty bags or bits of cloth about, but there's no actual seed nearby. And from the looks of it, it was taken out of the grain truck, the stuff that was still remaining in the truck. So it looks like it was all taken away. I mean, either the family themselves made use of it or passed it on to someone else that could make use of it, right? So it doesn't literally go to waste. That's my opinion, okay? Let me know your thoughts. Someone also says, how many people wanted Dylan Rounds dead? He was taking their jobs. He was ripping up ground that was a long-established sheep grazing trail since the 1800s as they drive them clear to Idaho for the yearly sheep roundup and running parade in Idaho Falls. He was acquiring water rights and had ambitious plans to buy more land and water in land that has been historically been sheep country. He was becoming a problem for powerful people. I mean, from the looks of it, one of those situations, from what Candice Cooley has said when relaying on about Dylan's successes and goodness and, things he's managed to achieve and done. Candice Cooley said the farm handlers, people in the area of Lucin that were allowed to get water from, I don't know what you call it. Dylan allowed the opportunity for people to come on over to get water from him, and it was allowed, and they were really appreciative and happy of that. So they saw Dylan in a positive light there, no hatred. But is that 100% true? It's what we've heard from Candice Cooley, right? So you just gotta respond to how you think. Anyway, let's carry on. Even Kurt Wadsworth's sister, Taylina, stated he has to go. What? I don't remember hearing that. What, Taylina wanted Dylan Rounds to go? To leave the area or to die? I'm not quite sure. I'm unconvinced Jim Brenner did it. I think he is a fall guy. Okay, we have heard of that before in the past. If Brenner is a fall guy, okay, let's just think along these lines. Let's not get out of proportion. Son, if you think Jim Brenner is a fall guy, why was he in his trailer at 7:27 a.m. the day Dylan went missing, cleaning a gun with blood on his shirt in which that blood was of Dylan Rounds? Do you think Brenner was a fall guy in which Brenner was witnessing Dylan being killed by someone else and Brenner had to dispose of Dylan, or was too close and that's why blood went on him? What's your thoughts? Because, what other way around it? If it's tying on with, Kurt Wadsworth, that Kurt believes Brenner is 100% innocent, it's like, how can Brenner be innocent when he's got evidence here and evidence there, which ties to Dylan, and Brenner, from the looks of it at least, was really the only one in the area alongside Dylan, with Don Haley being a bit further away. It just seems to link and reinforce back to Brenner being the one. I've not always said that, okay? But with time and with evidence coming out, there's been a shift in thoughts, which is natural and normal, right? For the people that have been consistent in believing that Brenner is a fall guy or somehow misunderstood, To an extent, respect to those people that have remained in place, firm on those beliefs and ideas, even if it may not be true. It shows that they've got a strong mind and thoughts to that stuff. But people in the chat, leave your thoughts to what you think about this. Do you agree with it or not? Interesting discussions, interesting paragraphs provided by Sun. No harm in reading out. Not like we have to get ultra deep or change the narrative. We just simply read it out and assess the situation. Okay. Anyway, Sun says, keep doing what you are doing. You're an excellent investigator. I look forward to every video you make. First of all, I like the way you create your content, analyze your data, and address your commenters. It is very effective and prevents drama. No need for mods, which are troublemakers in most cases. Good point. Thank you for sharing your pond, river, and forest walk. Little frog, squirrel, kitty cat, and Irish cloverleaf. I think there was a time once where I was on a field when I was trying to look for the horses, and Ty Corbin said, "That's a nice farm you have." And I was just randomly in the middle of a field. So that was kind of funny, that. Anyway, what question does Sun have? The question is, do you live near a major airport like Heathrow International? No, I don't live near an airport, nowhere near. She says, it sounds like you are directly under the glide path sometimes. I mean, that could well be the case. There's a lot of planes that do fly over me. So I guess within the glide path, where they take off or where they come on in, yes, there's definitely that to take in mind. I mean, the times when I've done videos in the past and constant planes flying on over, it does get a little bit problematic and a little bit annoying. But it was worse in the past when I was in the shed doing the videos. Inside, it's not as bad. It's quite okay. And what else was there here? Also, what is that intermittent rumbling sound? Do you live in a building with a large boiler? Check its water level, could be breaking down. I hear two sounds in the background that I am curious about. Thank you for what you do. You deserve more viewers. All the best. So that's nice of what Sun said. As for the rumbling in the background, is it the ba-bum, 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 something like that? That could be the train tracks, because I'm near to train tracks, railroad tracks, if you want to call it that. And quite a few trains do pass by. So that could explain that, because sometimes things do vibrate inside. I mean, in the past, I don't know if it was the lamp or the door behind me, but that would rattle and make a weird tapping sound. And I think, to explain one thing, and it was only really in the last video I did, which was what we're reading the comments to now. This could explain it, Son. When I was sat on the bed, yes, that's right, I'm not an armchair detective, I'm a bed boy detective, if you want to call it that. But when I was sat on the bed, we were being a little bit bouncy, okay? The headboard, I think, was a bit too close to the wall, so it would rattle against it. Let me try and do it now. I think it's a bit loose. So let me know if you hear the sound. It's like that knocking sound. It wasn't as loud, but maybe that's what the issue was. I don't know why it's doing that, though. Might have to have a look at that, tighten it up or something. But yeah, that could explain the odd bit of rumbling in the background. One thing that's not happened, I don't think, is thunder and lightning, a storm during a video. I mean, what I would say is, if that ever did happen, the weather changed and it was like chaotic all of a sudden, I'd probably just flip the image. Instead of showing my face, I'd flip the image so the camera's pointing at the sky outside, so then you could see the weather as it's like pure chaos. Then you got the ambience of the weather, ambience of the sounds about, if possible, whilst I'm narrating. I mean, the other method would be if I just went outside and just started walking about randomly, whilst there was a big storm. That would be interesting, that. Yeah, if that does happen, I can do that. But, what's got to coincide with that is actual talking points about the case, because if not, just randomly walking in silence, it just wouldn't make much sense. Then again, some people have done live stream chats where it's been completely silent and they've just texted and typed in just the chat box, right? As I've always said, the video itself can be important to an extent, but for future video ideas and coverage or new information, updates, the live chat box can be quite valuable and important as well, if not more at times, and it has demonstrated, especially in recent time, people on good behaviour in the chat, which is interesting. That's all good. So shout out to Sun, an individual that typed a very long comment. Could be the longest one yet, possibly. Wow. Anyway, let's move on. Smooth Fishing says the horses wasn't talking. I was out walking. Yeah, they weren't talking. They didn't even look at me. So that's a shame. Oh, final comment by Sun. White Raf. Okay, just a shorter one there, so I'll let her off. Ari. Grouse Creek is a small cattle ranching community. It is snowed in during most of the winter, and roads in and out are rough dirt roads. They have a pretty good little rodeo community. Mainly Mormon families live there. There are no bars or businesses out there. Wow. Remember the weekend Dylan disappeared was a holiday, the first weekend after a long winter. Many people travel from Utah with trailers, ATVs, horse trailers to enjoy that area, giving them a chance to enjoy camping, horseback riding, etc. So it being busy in the area, Sun saying, I doubt Brenner would try moving a dead body way over there, hours away. There would be a real risk he would have been seen. This same description goes for Park Valley. I hope this helps. Yeah, it's a good summary of that. I can understand about the rodeo. I don't know if there was any images, but yeah, I noticed it was labelled on the maps, rodeo place. And yeah, with it being the weekend, it was celebrations and stuff. Going to be avoiding the highways and this and that. Brenner taking the back roads away from Grousehouse Creek. So, yeah, I mean, it's been talked about in the past loosely about that location where interesting things may have happened, and Bibbins himself giving his own opinion. But at the end of the day, it was just opinion, right? But still worth looking at because you never know. Though it has been described in the past as a quiet area to pass through, and that may well be the case, but if people do gather down there to hang out when the weather has improved and on certain events, occasions, and it ties in with Dylan, you're going to be doing things elsewhere. Unless it's post Dylan's disappearance, post, God, what do you call it now? Memorial Day weekend thing. Post that, let's say that's already ended, it's gone by, you're going into June, then Grousehouse Creek may have quietened down, people may have left the area, moved on, and then that could have served the opportunity to then remove Dylan and take him elsewhere. Okay? That's what I mean. The time zone of having the opportunity to move stuff until Brenner was truly taken away was from May 28th, 2022 to June the 16th, 2022. A fair bit of time, right? But yeah. Is that it? Yeah. Oh yeah, and if anyone's ever confused and wonders, what is that dodgy link as an alt super chat? What the fuck is that? Some kind of special whipping session? I don't know. But yeah, basically, understandably, at the end of the day, whether it be within the Dylan Rounds case community of people, which, in a way, that's where it begun. Like, with the super chat feature, it didn't seem to exist in the days of Kenny Veach. So shout out to all the people throughout time in the Dylan Rounds community that have appeared on the channel and done what they've done. Very good of them. But as a backstory behind this alt super chat, It's just basically more of an anonymous way of doing it, because at the end of the day, understandably, people have been attacked at times for supporting other channels in whatever way, whether it be just a simple comment or subscribing to a channel or liking a video or more. People have been attacked for that because other channels seem to view it as betrayal, backstabbing, pettiness, and it just gets very bitchy, a lot of drama and problematic. So people get to the point where they've been attacked, where they feel unsafe, they're scared to move, they're scared to do anything in case they get, hunted down or anything like that. So almost like silenced. Whereas this link provides the ability for people to do what they feel like, do what they want without having to be controlled by others out there or other channels, So it's anonymous and it's under control. I mean, that's the best way to word it. Anonymous, under controlled, super chat. Boom. There we go. So, with that all out the way, I think it's now time, despite those long comments, to go on Google Earth and check out those dodgy coordinates. Okay, so now we are on Google Earth. We have at least 2 coordinates sets to get through. Let's check out the first one and see where it takes us. So we're within Lucin, and the marker is close to the Utah-Nevada border. Does it appear to be over the railroad tracks? I believe so. Railroad tracks right there. The ones where there's 2 sets of them. Yep, 2 sets of railroad tracks across both over this way. And this appears to be near to the main highway, which goes through Utah, Lucin, crosses over the border to get into Montello, Nevada, which is down here. Okay? And we have followed that highway. That highway does cut across over via a bridge over the wash from Grouse House Creek, which is in the distance. At what point is it at? Maybe it's round here. I could be wrong. We're just doing it very rough on the spot. Let's see. Oh, naughty boy, Andrew. You naughty boy. You're very far off. Everybody in the chat, whip me now for my inaccuracies. Normally, I'm not that far off, but yeah. But we're just doing it on the spot, basically. This coordinate was provided by Tara, okay, in case you're wondering. Make sure we're facing north. Here we are, within Lucin. We have briefly looked ahead in the past when looking at stuff. Lucin over that way. Grain shed property here, roughly in this area. There you go. Grain shed property here. You see? Yep. And the marker being over that way. Quite some distance. If we just did it very rough, okay, and I mean very rough. I don't know how you take into consider. Oh God, what's going on here? Won't even wait, you little knob. Does it get rid of the marker though? It does. Very disappointing. Yeah, it does. That is very annoying, that. Just load it back up. Is it when I... Yeah, it's when I tap there. So it's from somewhere like there to down here. Over 10 miles, if not more, when you go on the actual roads. So, fair bit of distance, but still doable by vehicle. What's the significance, though, of this plot? What's nearby? Okay? From the looks of it, it does appear like we have seen this before in the past. And some of you will know from my Lucin map analysis video. You got this patch here where it looks like there's a roadway which comes off from the highway, as you can see. Comes off down here, bends round, and gets to this slot here where there appears to be some items nearby. Can't see any vehicles, but it looks like a pen for animals. You can see the fences, the designated spots. And it would be for pigs, sheep, cattle, possibly. Not sure if it's a farm or It's belonging to a farm elsewhere. But if anyone does know, feel free to answer. There appears to be a RV trailer by the side. Okay, so maybe someone was living there at the time in 2019. What I will try and do is look at that 2022 imagery on that other map. Okay, but we'll probably, no, I guess we can do that in a second, right? We'll keep it consistent. We'll do that in a second. Hopefully I can relocate it and just see if it has changed whatsoever. Okay, still interesting, you know. Whose is this? Who does it belong to? Of course, anyone in the chat right now from a Montello local or a Lucin local, whoever it may be, if you know of anything regarding this spot, feel free to let me know or leave a comment in the chat. Who owns this parcel of land? If anyone does, is it still in use? I'll drop the coordinates right now on screen, okay? Just leave it there for a few seconds. Might be more practical if I copy and paste them in the chat, if I can, like how I did last time. But yeah, just to clear up these loose ends, right? Because although, yes, we have looked at this spot in the past, was it ever explained? No. So maybe we can get an answer now. So if you know anything, any information of this area, leave a comment down below. Let's just do street level, just to see if we can pair it up with that dirt road. Yeah, there we go. Do you know what? I don't know why I've never done that before. Sure, the image quality is shit, but, you know, is what it is. There appears to be track marks on the side. Can you see it? Almost joining onto the road. So I don't know if that's come from the dirt road down there. It's very hard to tell. I can't see any RV trailer. I see a green object. But then again, maybe the trailer's green. What does it say there? S&M? S&N? Isn't that some dodgy stuff? I don't know. I'm not sure what that sign says. 511? 511 what? Name of the road? There's a sign there, then. And then whatever it is down there. You can see some kind of fencing. Green object. But it is hard to make out just because it's very blurry. Though, is there any track marks? Kind of. There kind of is. There's a sign there as well, but unfortunately can't read it, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, interesting the way it's just there on the side of this highway. Going down that way will get you eventually into Montello. Well, what we'll do now is the next satellite imagery you'll see will be of this same area, but in 2022. We might as well do it just to see if it has changed since, any drastic changes, and just see if it's still there to begin with. Let's find out. Boom, there we go. I managed to find it on the spot without the coordinates and markers. A big slap on the leg. Oh, it doesn't make the same slap sound now. Must be the material I'm wearing. What a shame. It'll have to do. There, what you see here, Montello Road, it's called. Is it called Lucin Road here? I'd expect it to. The border is like down this middle bit, but why is there a dirt road? Anyway, well, I'm probably a little bit wonky, a little bit off centre. But like when we were talking about the highway, take in mind I can't rotate the image on this map, which is unfortunate, but you know, we just work with what we got. You got the highway there, comes off this dirt road, as you remember, and then we've got this zone. And as you can clearly see, it's all still there. It's not really changed. You got that white looking, oh God, you got that white looking RV trailer. You got these designated spots where it seems as if it's like it's fenced off. The track marks are still there. So I guess there's some kind of activity going on because, you know, when you get abandoned dirt roads over a long period of time, eventually they become not as clear, not as viewable because vegetation starts growing, right? And it almost conceals it in a way. But yeah, it all looks like it's there. You've still got the outline of the track around it. Looks like there's like a pen, a den, some kind of chicken coop, maybe, in the middle of the screen. There's some object showing within, surrounded by defences for animals. But then down here, the dirt road continues on. And then what is that? Whoa. What's going on there? That did not exist in 2019. Not at all. So what the hell's going on there? That's new. Is that... It looks like a square, and then nearby is some kind of weird object. Now, I can't zoom in anymore because I think the screen will go white. Oh, no, it didn't. Good, good. What the hell is that? Is that a shed? I'm not sure. Is it a dumping ground? A fire pit? A dirt mound? Probably not, because it doesn't look roundish. So, someone must be living nearby, or at least owns it for new activity, new development, right? Changes to the environment. Interesting, right? All this time looking at 2019 imagery, and you look at this and wow, it's transformed. And you see the bareness around it. No vegetation, just bare. Kind of like the dirt track. So it's been cleared. It's been cleared and then something's been placed there. And I'm sure there might be clearer images out there, but we just work with what we've got at this moment in time. Maybe we can transition onto other photos, some other material, right? I'm sure we'll get there, but we just focus on this for now. Interesting. So it has changed. Coming down to here, which looks relatively the same, but then an additional dirt road coming down to here to this patch. Let me know your thoughts in the chat to what you think this could be. Yeah, let me know your thoughts. I think it could be some kind of shed, but it's a fair-sized one, considering. I don't see any shadows casted, so that does make me question. Let's just return back to the normal Google Earth. We're back on normal Google Earth, and as you can clearly see, there is a difference when looking at 2019, what we're on now, to what we were looking at just then, which was 2022. Yep, that's still there. This outline's still there, that little shed thing or little object thing's there. But then at this point, there's no pathway, which it doesn't really go down. It's more of like a circular motion, like a turnabout section. Can you see that circle? Mid-section of the screen. There is no clearing. There is no shed or square-shaped object on the ground. It's just completely empty. So a new development took place from 2019 to 2022. But why? And what is it exactly? And who did it? Interesting. The only reason why I say that is, one, is it a possible place, an opportunity to dispose of Dylan? And two, considering Lucin is such a ghost town, completely empty and quiet, there are still things going on here and there. And if there's levels of activity or certain traffic of people at points, it may alter the direction in which Dylan is disposed of, right? To avoid detection. Where those odd dirt paths go, though? Well, if we just follow that one, which goes back here where that bare patch should be, it turns round, comes down this way, we're following it, and then it comes onto the train tracks, or does it run in parallel? Well, it must do. Runs in parallel all the way down here, very faint and hard to see, and it's kind of just like in line with it up to a certain point, but then it fades away. It's weird, these dirt tracks, right? The way 1 minute you see them, next minute they just fade off and just stop in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, what happened to that vehicle, that person driving it? Did the tracks just become invisible? No more tracks left behind? Did the vehicle just stop where it was at and then that was it? Or did they turn about? But sometimes you don't always see the turnabout tracks where they've spun around. And you think of Aidan Clune, where people were following his footprints, and then at some point they didn't find any more. And it's like, well, what happened? Why is there no more footprints of Aidan Clune? Did he just stop walking and then something happened? Did he turn back the other way? Kind of like with Kenny Veach, Mojave Desert, Jeremy Canyon, following his scent up to the mine shaft. Get to there, the scent's lost, don't know where else he went. Did he double back on himself? Maybe. Like, it's just weird, this type of stuff. At least in my mind. And we're applying it to Dylan Rounds, like how people have done the observations with Dylan's farm and his truck around the area near to, looking at the ground level, how it appears like there's some kind of footprints in the ground, but then it just comes to a halt and then there's no more. And it's like, did the person take the shoes off and then leave it there, or did they just stop walking? I mean, like 20 minutes away from me on one of the paths, there was like footprints with paint prints where someone must have stepped in paint, and it went for a certain distance and then it faded out. That's because the paint dried out or came off the shoe, so there was nothing left to follow. That makes sense. But if you're on terrain, some kind of environment which constantly leaves prints behind as you walk, it shouldn't really end unless you get out of the dirt and onto a normal pathway where they won't leave prints down. Yeah, interesting. I think now it's time to go to the next set of coordinates. I wonder if I can find it on the spot without the use. I don't know. It's a bit demanding, to be honest. Let's have a brief look about. Hold on. Where's Lucin Pond gone? Lucin Pond there. Boom, boom. Yes, come on. That hurts. Never mind. I found it. There we go. So we don't need to use the coordinates for this one, but I will press down the coordinates in a second. So Tara suggested this location, right? Very interesting. I forgot about this spot. I did look at it in the past, but I did not put a marker down. So when it came to that Lucin exploration map analysis, I could not relocate it. I knew it was kind of near to Lucin Airport, but I didn't know how far away. And here it is. We zoom in, you can see those structures on the ground. Bit patchy, right? Appears to be near some, what? Is that old tracks? Old railway tracks? I don't know, it's hard to tell. But there seems to be like a concrete building there of some sort. A little bit bare nearby. If we zoom out, kinda. West entrance, Transcontinental. Okay. Grain shed is over here. So if we just do a quick distance check, very rough. Okay. About 2-3 miles away. From here, roughly speaking, to the pond, if we're just really skipping across. Make sure we're on it. It's about 4,300 foot away. So definitely under a mile. Now, make sure we're facing north. It's this like winding bit as well. This pure whiteness. What the hell's going on there? They look like old railroad tracks, which kind of fade out. And we did see a couple of them south down past Wendover when looking in that valley of the mountains, the area where Aidan Clune ended up crossing over the highway and went into the desert area. We did some 360-degree imagery on ground, and it showed old railroad tracks which look like the same ones here. But what's with all this whiteness? Is that a wash, or is it just lots of railroad tracks? Does anyone know? But the main focus of is this area here, which looks like an abandoned building from the looks of it, some kind of complex. And, you know, at first glance, it's that idea of, is this a potential spot where Dylan was taken, whether it be held captive or buried within or near to the grounds? Does anyone agree? Any thoughts, ideas? Now, just to acknowledge one thing, Spirit, if you're watching right now, if I'm correct in saying you had a image of this area up to date 2022 with a trailer parked round about here nearby, and the talk about it being Don Hately. Is that 100% confirmed? Feel free to let me know. If there's anyone in the chat right now that wants to reinforce it that this area is Don Hately, feel free to do so. As said, I don't want to go in too hard right now because I think we can do a more dedicated, focused video in the future, right? But today, it was kind of coincidental in terms of transitioning on over because of Tara's comment of her places she's found. So shout out to Tara for giving the coordinates of this spot, because this could well be a very important spot. And at least it reminds me of the area of a place I could not relocate in the past, but we do have it now. And visually, we will be able to remember it. Best way of looking at it, it's opposite West Entrance Transcontinental, and it's near that semicircle, okay? Let's just click on West Entrance. Is there any images? No, there isn't. But there's like a different coloured map of it, as you see there. Pilot Mountain Road, Pigeon Mountain Loop. There's a lot of roads named that nearby. Do we have any imagery? No, we don't. That's a shame. But yeah, interesting area when you look at it. Some kind of structures, walls. Looks like a building there that may have caved in, the roof. But then this big zone here, that's a fair size, that. Wow. If we zoom in though, you've got the, like, what do you call it? A hill, a mountain. Does it overlook anything in the distance? Yeah, it does. From this angle, if we're matching it up with Lance Kelly, who, what road was he driving on then? This one, this dirt road? No, because that would go right into it. I don't know what road Lance Kelly was on. Was it this road? Driving this way, Lance Kelly. And then looked in the distance, which was opposite. There. That marker. And Lance Kelly was on this road. And he pointed the camera over that way and said, that's where Don's trailer's at. Kind of makes sense because it's in line with the mountains in the background, Bald Eagle Mountain. So we could have finally found the spot. But, you know, it's one of those things which I did see in the past but didn't know it was, I guess, maybe Don's place. But also, because this being 2019, it doesn't show up-to-date imagery of what could be there now, which, you know, could show the trailer, and that's what we've always been looking for, a trailer. Though you may never find the trailer if it never existed at that point, 2019, right? Just bear with me, we'll go on to that new map imagery of this area to locate and see if it has changed drastically or not. Don't worry, got you covered. But yeah, it's taken this long, right? Simplistic, not deep, yet with time, no one at all was able to provide coordinates to this spot. It's a place of interest, right? You know, Don Hately's is a place of interest. Going inside of his trailer, what's left behind? Is there anything of interest? You know, if people have done it to the grain shed property, they've done it to Brenner's burnt down trailer, then why not Don Hately's trailer? Why has no one gone up to his trailer and looked inside? Don Hately's not around anymore, so you don't have to worry about that. Can anyone explain in the chat why, from the looks of it, supposedly speaking, no one has searched, recorded, or gone up to Don Hately's property trailer and gone inside, documented it? Not even pancakes. Is there a reason behind it? You know, with it being near to all the other spots and even the pond, you thought they would have ticked it off the list. Why not? Interesting. And in terms of Ty Corbyn's description saying it's about 1 mile west of Lucin Pond, well, this isn't west of Lucin Pond. This is more north or northwest. So kind of got that wrong, which isn't exactly helpful. But yeah, let's now go on over to the 2022 imagery and see if it looks any different. So here we are, we're looking at it. You got that semicircle, oval-shaped thing there near Pilot Mountain Road, and it's right in the middle of the screen here, as you can see. We zoom in as much as we can. I think that's the best we can do. You got that structure once again. That structure in the middle of the screen. I don't know what it is, you know, some kind of building going on. But the most important thing is, the most important difference in comparison from 2019 to 2022 is we officially have a vehicle and maybe a motorbike nearby to that vehicle and the white RV trailer. This could well be the spot of Don Hately where he lived for a certain point in Lucin. His trailer. Boom. I think we found it. And it's reinforced with spirit as well, with what they've said, the image. A clearer image, of course. What I do want to do, because I don't want to title it directly the video of Don Hately's place found. In the past I did, but I put a question mark because I was unsure, and there was a good reason to why, because it turned out that those previous spots weren't the actual location, okay? So if I'm going to put a for definite title, I want it to be 100% reinforced, okay? So the people in chat right now, reinforce it if you're able to. I feel somewhat confident that this is Don Hately's place, though I'm just surprised that that structure there in the middle of the screen didn't show in Lance Kelly's footage. Is it because it's not a building and it's flat ground, foundations? Can anyone explain that? That might help understanding. But you can clearly see that there is a white RV trailer there with a car nearby and another black object, which could be a motorcycle, which Don Hately owned, I believe a Harley Davidson, okay? So in 2019, I assume Don Hately did not live in Lucin, but fast forward on, he did. He moved in. It makes sense. It does make sense now. Wow. This is what I mean, we're tying up loose ends from the looks of it, left, right, and centre. And I said, if this truly, let's just get rid of that for a second so there's no disruption. If this location truly is Don Hately's, I will do a short, dedicated summary video before and after of the location of Don Hately. I'll provide coordinates. So if ever down the line, although it is too late now, though Don's no longer in the area, so I guess it's not as problematic, right? If anyone needs to explore the place or refer back to it as a reference point, you'll be able to check that video out. It'll be titled specific, it'll be somewhat summarized and straight to the point. I know I've talked it through here, but it's a part of a longer video and there's a level of uncertainty, but I'm starting to wear that off, right? And I might be able to use a better, clearer, up-to-date image next time. So I think it is all under control. So once again, shout out to Tara for providing the coordinates of this spot. Although unknown to her as simply a dodgy place, this could well be Don Hately's actual place of living, up to the point of him leaving Lucin. So wow, there we go. That's very good. That is very good. And it's opposite Pilot Mountain Road. Almost at a crossroad between Pilot Mountain Road, Old Railroad Grade Road, and Pilot Mountain Road. Wow. And it is north. It's basically north of the pond, not west. So I don't know why Ty Corbyn was saying it was west of the pond when it's actually north, and it's under a mile as well. So technically, because I was misdirected in the past, that's what led to the delay in finding it, right? It's okay just recording it and documenting it or just saying, oh, it's over there. But coordinates are very important. Satellite imagery is very important to pinpoint. You need to pinpoint these locations, right? If you're doing a hike route, you want to do the best route possible, the safest option, the quickest option, right? You got to be able to map it out. You got to provide the coordinates. In the Kenny Veach case, it was quite serious regarding that. And the reason why it was serious was because you had hikers going out there. And I'll say one more thing to whether it be people from the past who might have just popped in quick or people in the future or whenever, those that say these map analyses aren't that important, you need to look back to the Kenny Veach case of the map and hike routes. The projects which I created were somewhat influenced and used by hikers that went out there themselves, okay? This is talking about life and death situations, okay? To an extent, if my map analysis, my hike routes were somewhat inaccurate, it could have led to a death of a hiker. So that is why I had to use specific language at the time, specific distances, estimated times and routes to get about. And I'd say 100% of the time, it was a high success rate. All the hikers that did go out there, whether they be influenced by my map analysis or not, they all came back, right? That is critical and important to acknowledge. So, wow, what a video. Let's now ease off and focus on what Weezer has had to say recently regarding Chase Venstre. So from the previous long comment Weezer provided in recent time, which we read out, make sure to check that video out if you haven't already. We've got an add-on comment here, I guess just clearing up a few other points. Weezer said, the guy that had his guns stolen lived near the place Chase was buying that had the chicken coop with dead chickens in it. Okay, this is regarding Chase Venstre's homestead. So the victim of Chase Venstre's burglaries and stealing of items, that victim lived nearby. So they were a prime target, if you want to call it that. And we have looked at Chase Venstre's homestead in the past, credit to Salty Pancakes footage. We broke it down bit by bit, image by image, and looked at interesting items on screen. Now, do we need to look back at it with the use of Weezer's comments and the guy's items stolen to maybe make sense of that mystery, that crime, to solve that, a subsection within the Dylan Rounds case? We'll do a poll right now. Do you want to see a revisit of Chase Venstre's homestead and all the items of interest documented there, and to just basically go for it once again and say, is there anything here that belongs to that victim, yes or no? Can it be retrieved, etc, etc? Make sure to vote right now, it will be helpful. Anyway, let's continue reading. I'm sure most remember that video, true, from Pancakes. The camo clothing and missing gun is interesting because if anyone remembers at the beginning, Chase Venstre was seen near Tacoma Road hiding in the brush and the ranchers were after him. He was wearing camo and carrying a gun. The gun that is still missing is an AR. This guy believes that it's hidden somewhere between Tacoma and Lucin. This guy also told me he tried several times to contact Kurt and Salty to get locations on the videos so he could retrieve some of his stolen items. Neither of them responded back. Most of what I read there, Weezer, I have never heard of before. I don't think we need to look into it too deep today, because I feel already, wow, I'm getting static shocks all over me. Not literally. This is like spidey senses are tingling and dingling. Okay. I think that poll needs to be voted right now. I feel we need to do a dedicated video to all this regarding Weezer's comment. Boom, we can incorporate that Tacoma Road battle tactics strategy analysis of the potential pathways Venstra came from. We can look out for the brush and see what that's all about. Wow. This is what I mean. We can tie up loose ends. We can make sense of past events which happened during Dylan's disappearance or leading up to it, the 25th of May. Yes. Wow. Okay. We'll see if there's any important news in between or if there's any additional videos that come up in between, but that could well be the next one. And I'll probably reread this comment in the next video, okay, just to add a backstory to the map analysis of what we go into. But I just wanted to read it out now. But yeah, being honest, I've not really seen this before. And as for the bit where it says, the guy told me he tried several times to contact Kurt and Salty to get the locations on the videos. Being honest, I've not been able to track those locations down on the maps. But if I did, and I got the coordinates, I would show it, okay? But maybe we can do one thing at a time, one step at a time. Mostly in Montello, if I'm correct in saying. And we can get discussion points from there. If anyone does truly know the location of Chase Venstra's homestead, if possible, feel free to share it and then we can spread awareness around that. Of course, the important part is looking at Dylan rounds, where Dylan is buried at or hidden at or stored at to locate Dylan. To see if there's any more questions in between, loose ends that need to be tied up, any sub-mysteries, any sub-crimes. This is all like the same foundations as Kenny Veach. You got the main issue, the main mystery, which is still not been resolved yet, but then you got the sideline stuff that needs tying up as well, so it does not entangle the main thing anymore, to separate those strands, to let it loose, to get that scalpel and dissect it. And if it does need reattaching because there is relevance down the line, then it can be, and if not, it can just be separated, so then there's time to breathe and there is space and more clarity. So I think it's under control, it's okay, and that could well be the next video. Wow, so yeah, wow, once again, I think it turned out to be a good video, generating new ideas, generating new valid videos with valid material, as well as reusing, recycling previous stuff to tie it all together, to tie up loose ends, to reinforce certain points. All good, okay? And I'll make note as well of that potential small video regarding Don Haley's place of living, what we looked at today. If people want to reinforce it, make sure to do so down below, okay? Once it feels 100% confirmed, I will drop that summarized video, but I'm just holding off for now because I don't want it to backfire, so it's important we get the accuracy, okay? That aside, I think we'll leave it there. Hopefully you learned something new. Let me know your thoughts regarding that alt theory regarding Dylan Rounds earlier on and his reckless farming, which could have impacted the animals, livestock, the food present, and the quality of the terrain, the ground, etc. And also those dodgy coordinates as well. And with the use of that 22 imagery, 2022, although it's not the closed or the best, for now at least it's useful because we're able to see some distinct differences between the two. If you have just joined, make sure to rewind back to the beginning so you don't miss anything. Very important video and interesting as well. So that's it for now. We'll see what happens next, whenever the next video comes, in a day or 3, let's just say, roughly speaking. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye and good night.